Sally up, bring Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground.
New York City, the city of lights, the concrete jungle, a city ran by coffee among other drugs, a place where $1 made is $5 spent. Bob Dylan once said, New York City was a place where you could be frozen to death in the midst of a busy street and nobody would notice. But New Yorkers are starting to notice some things.
The NYPD's controversial stop and frisk policy.
NYPD program known as Stop and Frisk. Also,
last year, New York police officers stopped and interrogated people nearly 686,000 times.
Today that a lawsuit raises serious questions about quotas, racial profiling, and constitutional rights.
Stop and frisk, a law in New York City that has been defended and promoted by Michael Bloomberg, the New York City mayor, and police commissioner Ray Kelly. The stop and frisk law in New York City affects over 1,800 residents each day. In the last decade, 87% of the stopped and frisked were either black or Latino. Roughly 9 out of 10 of these residents were innocent of any kind of wrongdoing. A stop and frisk is known as a 250 in police terms. A 250 means a routine stop, question, and frisk. A 250 or stop and frisk is required by police officers and is a huge part of their job. Officers who receive low 250 records are subject to disciplinary action. Some may get put in bad areas late at night, be transferred, have unwanted assignments, or even receive low evaluations. An anonymous New York City police officer who is a 10-year veteran claimed that on the job he was hunting for 250s to avoid receiving low evaluations. He stated, "We're supposed to be the best in the world, but we're the best at making money. We're the best at arresting and summoning everyone." And although some NYPD officers may disagree with these stop and frisk tactics, the NYPD is New York City's only agency to operate without independent oversight, which means the officers have no safe place to file complaints about police practice or problems. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and especially Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly have been promoting and thoroughly defending the stop and frisk law for the past decade. Commissioner Kelly stated, "It is a practice that is essential to policing. As a matter of fact, you can't police without doing it." Despite the large amount of accusations against stop and frisk for its alleged use of racial profiling, Kelly claims that the notion that the NYPD engages in racial profiling simply is untrue. He also states, "We train our officers that they need reasonable suspicion to make a stop, and I can assure you that race is never a reason to conduct a stop."
What we're trying to do is make certain that it's done as professionally as possible, that proper respect is shown. It's done according to the law.
However, since 2002, the percentage of African Americans who were stopped and frisked each year has been 53 to 56%, with Latinos following closely behind with 32 to 35%. Mayor Bloomberg responded to accusations against stop and frisk, saying, "If I had a son who was stopped, I might feel differently about it." The fact that it would take one of his own family members to be stopped and frisked not to realize but to acknowledge the problems and discrimination revolving around the law is astonishing. The stop and frisk law only shows a serious lack in trust the New York City's police department and mayor has toward its residents. Not only does stop and frisk promote racial profiling, but it creates an us versus them mentality between the police and the citizens, which only leads to more distrust. The law pertaining to stop and frisk is a complete violation of federal law and the Fourth Amendment, which states, "The right of the people to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated." Through taking a look at the law and its effects, I was able to sit down with someone who had been stopped and frisked to hear a little bit about what it was like. All right, so what's your name?
My name is Jade.
And you have been stopped and frisked?
Yeah, I can remember a time when I was walking to one of my friend's house, and he lives in a particularly all-white neighborhood, and I can definitely think off the top of my head there aren't really any black kids in that neighborhood, but two police officers once approached me in an unmarked vehicle, and they kept asking me where I was going and what I was doing. And instead of asking for consent to search, they kind of just started to search me. They were a little aggressive or whatever, but I was a minor at the time, so they didn't overstep their boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And were the police, were they white?
Yeah, both of them were white.
So do you feel like it was race related because you were in a white neighborhood?
Oh, definitely. They kept asking me where I was going and what I was up to, and it was really sketchy. It was in the middle of the day too. Like there were people all around us.
Did you feel sort of like your rights were violated at all?
I wouldn't go as far as say if my rights were violated, but the stop and frisk abilities,
It's kind of bullshit.
they definitely made me feel uncomfortable.
Although Jade's story wasn't surprising, it was sad to hear firsthand that someone was being stopped for their race. Local organizations like the NYCLU or New York Civil Liberties Union advocates in ending stop and frisk and claim that it doesn't prevent crime, but in fact is a crime. With my research and thanks to a website called Video Nation, I was able to obtain a secret recording of a stop and frisk in Harlem, New York by Alvin Malaith. What you are about to hear may be a little disturbing, but it is the harsh reality of stop and frisk.
Oh, you again, man.
Yo, I just got stopped like 2 blocks ago, yo.
You look very suspicious.
Cause y'all always looking at me crazy.
Because you keep looking back at us, man.
Cause y'all always looking crazy, yo. Coming up the block, always.
That's our job, man.
To stare at me, yo?
Listen to me. Listen to me. Our job is to look for suspicious behavior. When you keep looking at us like that, looking back.
Cause y'all always like stop. I just got stopped like 2 blocks away, like.
Because you keep doing that shit, man. We stopped you last time. Listen to me. When you were walking the block with your hood up and you keep looking back at us like that, bro, you think you might have something.
Cause I had my hoodie in there.
They do that. You have your hoodie on your body.
Well, cause it was cold.
Yeah.
You gonna smack me? You gonna smack me? No, you asked me why I have a book bag on.
Who are you talking to?
You asked me why I had a book bag on. You asked me if I had a book bag on. Yo, why you? Come on, why you touching me for?
You want to go to jail?
For what?
Shut your fucking mouth, kid.
What am I getting arrested for?
Shut your mouth.
What am I getting arrested for?
For being a fucking mutt, you know what?
Also, that's a law, being a mutt? Who the fuck are you talking? Cause you over here telling me why I have a hoodie, why I have a book bag on except for my hoodie. Why you putting it on my arm way back here?
Shut your fucking mouth.
You asking me questions.
Weren't you a fucking explorer at one point?
I was, and
Have some fucking respect.
Because that stopped me. You always stop me for no reason.
You want somebody talking
why you pushing?
Break your fucking arm.
You're gonna break my arm. For what?
Dude, I'm gonna fucking break your
arm. For
what?
Who's
your father?
He's gonna punch me in my face? He's not gonna answer. He don't got a phone.
You're in traffic?
Nope. Yup.
He's a traffic cop?
Yup.
Figures.
Traffic
don't
cop.
touch me. Okay, he's a traffic cop.
Fuck off.
Why you fucking Why you fucking walk? Why you fucking really fucking with the shit? Take a fucking walk. Yo, why you touch my ass?
Alvin claims that during the stop and frisk, the officer was pushing him and shoving him, trying to get him to fight back so he could have a reason to arrest him. Throughout the stop and frisk, the officers constantly threaten Alvin, saying that they're going to punch him in the face or break his arm. The police officers also claim that Alvin is being obtained because he is what they say a mutt, a derogatory term for someone who is of mixed race. In this case, Alvin is both black and Hispanic. If this doesn't call for an end or at least a revision to the stop and frisk law, then I don't know what does. The law is obviously flawed and continues to cause more harm than justice. Help stand up to stop and frisk and preserve your freedom to not be harassed by those who we paid to protect us.